Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 12:56 p.m. on the 3rd of July 2025, and it's such a beautiful day, and I'm still sitting out here with the little birdie boys. So I thought I would continue reading from W. Somerset Maugham's short stories. And the next few stories are very short, so I figure we've got time out here in Sacred Space to read and enjoy the sunshine and the loveliness of my garden. So let us begin. The story is titled Louise, which is very sweet. I had a school friend at Wellington Girls College named Louise, and I've got another friend called Louise on my Facebook list, who's hails from Ireland but lives in Manchester. To you, Louise. And yes, I've met a few lovely Louises in my day. So let's find out about this Louise. I could never understand why Louise bothered with me. She disliked me, and I knew that behind my back, in that gentle way of hers, she seldom lost the opportunity of saying a disagreeable thing about me. She had too much delicacy ever to make a direct statement, but with a hint and a sigh and a little flutter of her beautiful hands, she was able to make her meaning plain. She was a mistress of cold praise. It was true that we had known one another almost intimately for 25 years, but it was impossible for me to believe that she could be affected by the claims of old association. She thought me a coarse, a brutal, cynical, and a vulgar fellow. I was surprised at her not taking the obvious course and dropping me. She did nothing of the kind. Indeed, she would not leave me alone. She was constantly asking me to lunch and dine with her, and once or twice a year invited me to spend a weekend at her house in the country. At last I thought that I had discovered her motive. She had an uneasy suspicion that I did not believe in her, and if that was why she did not like me, it was also why she sought my acquaintance. It galled her that I alone should look upon her as a comic figure, and she could not rest till I acknowledged myself mistaken and defeated. Perhaps she had an inkling that I saw the face behind the mask, and because I alone held out, was determined that sooner or later I too should take the mask for the face. I was never quite certain that she was a complete humbug. I wondered whether she fooled herself as thoroughly as she fooled the world, or whether there was some spark of humour at the bottom of her heart. If there was, it might be that she was attracted to me, as a pair of crooks might be attracted to one another, by the knowledge that we shared a secret that was hidden from everybody else. I knew Louise before she was married. She was then a frail, delicate girl with large and melancholy eyes. Her father and mother worshipped her with an anxious adoration, for some illness, scarlet fever I think, had left her with a weak heart, and she had to take the greatest care of herself. When Tom Maitland proposed to her, they were dismayed, for they were convinced that she was much too delicate for the strenuous state of marriage. But they were not too well off, and Tom Maitland was rich. He promised to do everything in the world for Louise, and finally they entrusted her to him as a sacred charge. Tom Maitland was a big, husky fellow, very good-looking and a fine athlete. He doted on Louise. With her weak heart, she could not hope to keep her with him long. He could not hope to keep her with him long, and he made up his mind to do everything he could to make her few years on earth happy. He gave up the games he excelled in, not because she wished him to. She was glad that he should play golf and hunt, but because, by a coincidence, she had a heart attack whenever he proposed to leave her for a day. If they had a difference of opinion, she gave in to him at once, for she was the most submissive wife a man could have. But her heart failed her, and she would be laid up, sweet and uncomplaining, for a week. He would not be such a brute as to cross her. Then they would have quite a little tussle about which should yield, and it was only with difficulty that at last he persuaded her to have her own way. On one occasion, seeing her walk 8 miles on an expedition that she particularly wanted to make, I suggested to Tom Maitland that she was stronger than one would have thought. He shook his head and sighed. No, she's dreadfully delicate. She's been to all the best heart specialists in the world, and they all say that her life hangs on a thread. But she has an unconquerable spirit. He told her that I had remarked on her endurance. I shall pay for it tomorrow, she said to me in her plaintive way. I shall be at death's door. It's a bit like me dancing for 4 or 5 hours to wild bands, and then I go home and crawl into bed and stay there sometimes for 3 or 4 days, literally at death's door after overachieving and over-exercising and being superwoman for a one night only once a week. Well, I haven't done that for a few weeks. I'm actually feeling very tired, to be honest. Probably I'd be better off if I actually did keep up the dancing, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just need a break and have a bit of a rest too. I sometimes think that you're quite strong enough to do the things you want to, I murmured. I had noticed that if a party was amusing, she could dance till 5 in the morning, but if it was dull, she felt very poorly, and Tom had to take her home early. Instead of just saying, I'm bored, I've got to go home, bunging on the sick. I don't do that, people of Earth. If I'm bored somewhere, I simply say, I'm bored and I'm out of here. At least to myself, if to no one else. I'm afraid she did not like my reply, for though she gave me a pathetic little smile, I saw no amusement in her large blue eyes. You can't very well expect me to fall down dead just to please you, she answered. Louise outlived her husband. He caught his death of cold one day when they were sailing, and Louise needed all the rugs there were to keep her warm. He left her a comfortable fortune and a daughter. Louise was inconsolable. It was wonderful that she managed to survive the shock. Her friends expected her speedily to follow poor Tom Maitland to the grave. Indeed, they already felt dreadfully sorry for Iris, her daughter, who would be left an orphan. They redoubled their attentions towards Louise. They would not let her stir a finger. They insisted on doing everything in the world to save her trouble. They had to, because if she was called upon to do anything tiresome or inconvenient, her heart went back on her, and there she was at death's door. She was entirely lost without a man to take care of her, she said, and she did not know how, with her delicate health, she was going to bring up her dear Iris. It's a great worry when you have delicate health, actually. I lived in perpetual fear all through my children's childhood that I would die before I could raise them to adulthood. That was my worst fear because of my family, toxic, evil, perverted family, and I knew they wouldn't be safe if I wasn't around, and it was a very humbling, chilling, terrifying way to exist in the world. I was quite relieved when they grew to adulthood and basically outgrew me too, so out into the world they went, and they thought it was dreadful, but honestly, there comes a time in every young adult's life to get out and be independent and live your best life, and they weren't happy living with me, clearly, so it is what it is, people of Earth. But I made sure that they had a home until they reached adulthood, and I made sure that I was always available to them too. Even now we're estranged. If they needed me, I'd be available for them, but they don't need me, they don't want me, and nah, it's anything anyone can do but know that you did your very best. And given the circumstances we were living through at the times, which were utterly horrific, that was my best. Yes, little Kermie. Little bow bit me before, got a little puncture wound in my finger. Yes, even birdie children can be quite savage, mean little bird. But anyway, they're all right. They're getting sunshine, fresh air, and it's good for them, and it's good for me too. Although we might have to bring them in soon because it's getting a bit cool, that wind. It was lovely, but then the wind kicked up. The wind can just sod off now, can't it, boys? We were happy till it picked up again. Yes. Right, let us continue with the story. Her friends asked why she did not marry again. Oh, with her heart, it was out of the question, though of course she knew that dear Tom would have wished her to, and perhaps it would be the best thing for Iris if she did. But who would want to be bothered with a wretched invalid like herself? Something else I struggle with too. It's not fair to get into partnerships with people when you're sick all the time and you can't pull your weight all the time, and at 60 no one wants an invalided, sick, cantankerous, wild woman anyway. So it is what it is, people of Earth. Oddly enough, more than one young man showed himself quite ready to undertake the charge, and a year after Tom's death, she followed George Hobhouse. She allowed George Hobhouse to lead her to the altar. He was a fine, upstanding fellow, and he was not at all badly off. I never saw anyone so grateful as he for the privilege of being allowed to take care of this frail little thing. You see, there's a lid for every pot, as my mother used to say. Well, my pot must have bloody boiled over, because I never found a lid for my pot, but I never really wanted to be a lid on anyone else's pot either. All that confinement and control and envy and spite and skin. I just sloughed off a skin just thinking about it. Anyway, where were we? I mean, you have to laugh. My beautiful Rati, which is my cleaning lady, arrived this morning, and I was still in bed when she arrived. I was awake, but it was not fully sparking on all four cylinders. And she's at the door, and I had to unlock the door and let her in. She goes, "How are you, Tanya?" She's always so bright and radiant, full of joy. She's one of the most beautiful souls I have ever met. She's always full of light and delight. And "How are you, Tanya?" So I gave her my stock standard answer. "I'm alive." We laughed. And then I don't know what came over me, how it even came out of my mouth. We both laughed uproariously. I looked at her, I can't remember the context now, but I think the next sentence or two I said, "I think I need a husband." And then she looked at me and we both went, "Ah!" and screamed with like she herself is a happily married, devout Muslim lady, but she just knows my struggles with men in my lifetime, how dreadful it's really been. So we both laughed uproariously, and then I thought about it. I said to her, "I must be coming down with something. I must be quite ill. I might have to crawl back into bed. When have I ever said I want or need a husband?" And then I looked at her all serious again. I said to her, "And not someone else's husband either." And then off we went again, screaming with laughter. And it was actually quite delightful. She says, "You're so funny, Tanya." I said, "I don't know if it's really funny, but it's comedy, that's for sure. It's tragic comedy." But anyway, then I read her an old memory that came up about one of my conversations I had with some young predatory lout at the end of one of my nights back in 2016 of even date, which was hilarious. And I said, "This is why I'm still single, Rati. I'm not prepared to be spoken to like trash by any man, or demeaned or humiliated or degraded." I said, "It's just too revolting." And we just laughed again, you know. Or sometimes all you can do as a woman is just laugh and laugh and laugh, and then let your hair blow back and the sunshine and the happiness, and be wild and free, people of it. Wild and free. Yes, little beau who bit me, you little swine. But anyway, I'll get over it. He is a sweet little birdie. He's just a bitey little birdie. One day he'll love me and he won't want to bite me. Sounds like Stockholm Syndrome, doesn't it? You don't have to love me, you don't have to love me, beau. You can just live your best life and we'll all get along like peas and potatoes. Don't think love should be a thing that should ever be coerced or forced. It's either there or it's not. And when it sloughs you off like an old skin because it's got a new piece of ass to frotter over, sit back and laugh and go, "Bye-bye, bye-bye. You are, after all, the weakest link." And it's not because they didn't choose me, because, you know, as I said, don't bring much to the table, really. Trauma issues, living in housing commission, on a disability, struggling to build a career out of my silversmithing, which is arduous and a tad ridiculous at times, given my lack of resources. And, you know, my little second life on YouTube, where I get to entertain you with wonderful literature and magical stories. That's it. That's my life, people of Earth. It's not so bad though. You never know. I might find a George Hobhouse to think that he wants to protect and care for this frail little thing. But Mama T is not weak or all that frail. Sometimes she's superhuman when she puts her mind to it. Some can swing either way, really. But I do feel, to be honest, a bit frail today. I'm a bit tired today. I don't know why. I slept okay. I only got up twice during the night as opposed to 3 times the night before. I think that's what makes you tired, the constant interruptions to your sleep. But look, anyway, I'm living my best life with my little birdie boys. It's pretty good. It's pretty good in the broad scheme of things. I shan't live to trouble you long, she said. They call those kinds of women the black widows. They just keep, wearing their husbands down, or their husbands just die off on them, and they expected to die early, outlive them all. And that's kind of what I've done, although I didn't have husbands. I certainly outlived quite a few of my most monstrous enemies. Don't know how I did it, just one foot in front of the other, kept on breathing against all odds. It's a bit strange when you think about it. No, not a bit strange. It's completely bloody bizarre. But here we are, another day in paradise. Right. He was a soldier and an ambitious one, but he resigned his commission. Louise's health forced her to spend the winter at Monte Carlo and the summer at Deauville. I had to pause to think about that. Must have had quite a lot of money indeed. He hesitated a little at throwing up his career, and Louise at first would not hear of it, but at last she yielded, as she always yielded, and he prepared to make his wife's last few years as happy as might be. "It shan't be very long now," she said. "I'll try not to be troublesome." For the next 2 or 3 years, Louise managed, notwithstanding her weak heart, to go beautifully dressed to all the most lively parties, to gamble very heavily, to dance, and even to flirt with tall, slim, young men. But George Hobhouse had not the stamina of Louise's first husband. And he had to brace himself now and then with a stiff drink for his day's work as Louise's second husband. What a woman. Meow. It is possible that the habit would have grown on him, which Louise would not have liked at all, but very fortunately for her, the war broke out. He rejoined his regiment and 3 months later was killed. It was a great shock to Louise. She felt, however, that in such a crisis she must not give way to a private grief, and if she had a heart attack, nobody heard of it. In order to distract her mind, she turned her villa at Monte Carlo into a hospital for convalescent officers. Her friends told her that she would never survive the strain. "Of course it will kill me," she said. "I know that. But what does it matter? I must do my bit." It didn't kill her. She had the time of her life. There was no convalescent home in France that was more popular, I met her by chance in Paris. She was lunching at the Ritz with a tall and very handsome young Frenchman. She explained that she was there on business connected with the hospital. She told me that the officers were too charming to her. They knew how delicate she was, and they wouldn't let her do a single thing. They took care of her, well, as though they were all her husbands. She sighed. Poor George, who would ever have thought that I, with my heart, should survive him? And poor Tom, I said. I don't know why she didn't like my saying that. She gave me her plaintive smile, and her beautiful eyes filled with tears. You always speak as though you grudged me the few years that I can expect to live. By the way, your heart's much better, isn't it? It's never been better. I saw a specialist this morning, and he said I must be prepared for the worst. Oh, well, you've been prepared for that for nearly 20 years now, haven't you? When the war came to an end, Louise settled in London. She was now a woman of over 40, thin and frail still, with large eyes and pale cheeks. But she did not look a day more than 25. Iris, who had been at school and was now grown up, came to live with her. She'll take care of me, said Louise. Of course, it'll be hard on her to live with such a great invalid as I am, but it can only be for such a little while. I'm sure she won't mind. Iris was a nice girl. She had been brought up with the knowledge that her mother's health was precarious. As a child, she had never been allowed to make a noise. She had always realized that her mother must on no account be upset. And though Louise told her now that she would not hear of her sacrificing herself for a tiresome old woman, the girl simply would not listen. It wasn't a question of sacrificing herself. It was a happiness to do what she could for her poor, dear mother. With a sigh, her mother let her do a great deal. It pleases the child to think she's making herself useful, she said. Don't you think she ought to go out and about more? I asked. That's what I'm always telling her. I can't get her to enjoy herself. Heaven knows, I never want anyone to put themselves out on my account. And Iris, when I remonstrated with her, said, Poor dear mother, she wants me to go and stay with friends and go to parties, but the moment I start off anywhere, she has one of her heart attacks, so I must prefer to stay at home. But presently she fell in love. A young friend of mine, a very good lad, asked her to marry him, and she consented. I liked the child and was glad that she was to be given at last the chance to lead a life of her own. She had never seemed to suspect that such a thing was possible. But one day the young man came to me in great distress and told me that his marriage was indefinitely postponed. Iris felt that she could not desert her mother. Of course, it was really no business of mine, but I made the opportunity to go and see Louise. She was always glad to receive her friends at tea time, and now that she was older, she cultivated the society of painters and writers. Well, I hear that Iris isn't going to be married, I said after a little while. I don't know about that. She's not going to be married quite as soon as I could have wished. I've begged her on my bended knees not to consider me, but she absolutely refuses to leave me. Don't you think it's rather hard on her? Excuse me. Dreadfully. Of course it can only be for a few months, but I hate the thought of anyone sacrificing themselves for me. My dear Louise, you've buried 2 husbands. I can't see the least reason why you shouldn't bury at least 2 more. Do you think that's funny? She asked me in a tone that she made as offensive as she could. I suppose it's never struck you as strange that you're always strong enough to do anything you want to, and that your weak heart only prevents you from doing things that bore you? Oh, I know what you've always thought of me. You've never believed that I had anything the matter with me, have you? I looked at her, full and square. Never. I think you've carried out for 25 years a stupendous bluff. I think you're the most selfish and monstrous woman I've ever known. You ruined the lives of those 2 wretched men you married, and now you're going to ruin the life of your daughter. I should not have been surprised if Louise had had a heart attack then. I fully expected her to fly into a passion. She merely gave me a gentle smile. My poor friend, one of these days you'll be so dreadfully sorry you said this to me. Have you quite determined that Iris shall not marry this boy? I've begged her to marry him. I know it'll kill me, but I don't mind. Nobody cares for me. I'm just a burden to everybody. Did you tell her it would kill you? She made me. As if anyone ever made you do anything that you were not yourself quite determined to do. She can marry her young man tomorrow if she likes. If it kills me, it kills me. Well, let's risk it, shall we? Haven't you got any compassion for me? One can't pity anyone who amuses one as much as you amuse me, I answered. A faint spot of colour appeared on Louise's pale cheeks, and though she smiled still, her eyes were hard and angry. Iris shall marry in a month's time, she said, and if anything happens to me, I hope you and she will be able to forgive yourselves. Louise was as good as her word. A date was fixed, a trousseau of great magnificence was ordered, and invitations were issued. Iris and the very good lad were radiant. On the wedding day, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Louise, that devilish woman, had one of her heart attacks and died. She died gently forgiving Iris for having killed her. The end. Right, I'm thinking we've been out here for about an hour and a half now. We might go back inside, boys. It's getting a bit cold and I don't want you to get sick. And I certainly don't wish to get sick. And the sun has moved and on we go and on we go. It's all very lovely in our sacred space garden today. The black bamboo, very, very happily making its little clunking noises, and the frangipani, and the umbrella tree, and the golden rain tree over there. It's all delightful. So I'm going to go back inside because I'm feeling a bit cold and might have something to eat. I'll be back later to read you some more stories. They're all short ones, the next few stories, so I think we can manage it. Okay, bye for now from Sacred Space.